Go.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Today, welcome back to another episode of Democracy Decoded. Today, we will be discussing liberty versus order and the American party system. David, start us off.
Hi, I'm David.
Hi, I'm Osman.
I'm Owen.
And I'm Lucas.
Right, and today we just need you to tell us about your political parties. Osmar, can you tell us about your political?
Well,
system?
you know what? I want to present, the system of a multi-party system. I think it could give us better representation.
I am representing the two-party system and how it is still a good system in today's world.
And I am representing the one-party system that has been around for thousands of years.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. All right, let's start with some questions. How well do you think your party would reflect its constituents, Osmar?
Well, I believe that a multi-party system would give us a broad support of ideas and, representation. Of course, you'd have, left, right, center, and beyond, the political spectrum. Our two-party system right now is not reflective of what people have in mind when it comes to our government on both the national and the local level. So,
yeah. Owen?
I believe that it does it is doing well because there's only two parties for you to go to, and so what tends to happen is that these two parties tend to pick up the issues of the smaller parties, which allows them to advocate more towards those big two groups instead of having a bunch of smaller, not as important groups.
Yeah.
I believe that.
Alright, have you guys heard the saying "one size fits all"?
Yes.
yes.
That's the idea here. One size fits all. All the
But what if
ideas.
that one size doesn't fit all?
Of course.
You make it all encompassing.
But what if
Humanity isn't one size fits all. Humanity is broad. It's diverse. It's they can span from all different types of backgrounds. So I can't accept that idea.
Well, that's how we make it all encompassing. So it represents everyone from all different races, like genders, every single part of the spectrum. So
what kind of spectrum?
The autism spectrum?
sure, we can all encompass it into the autism spectrum as well, okay?
How do you guys think that your parties would, kind of change the country like right now, present?
Well, of course, like I just said, we would have more choices, more options for choices, and of course, we'd have more options for representation, And overall, I think it would just encourage overall efficacy in people, Right now, we have lots of apathy around the country where people just don't care because they feel as if maybe, our politicians are not working in their interests and not working for a collective America.
Yeah.
All right. I would say that our system is doing just fine as is. I don't think it needs to be like add more, remove parties. I think it's fine. It's worked since I should probably know this. 1840. Thank you. It's been working since 1840.
Of course.
So I think we should just keep it that way.
Yeah. Try
Alright.
true.
So, wait, what was the question again?
How do you think that your system would change the country presently? Like right now, we just switch to it. Like right now. How do you
So
think
right
that would
now we have a lot of gridlock. These two parties that we have are arguing over who is better.
change?
In my party system, which is the one-party system, there's swift action, like Federal 70 with swift action. It allows for rapid development and stability and order.
Yeah.
So how would the one party be created? Like, where does it originate from? Like, how does it start?
So, one party controls everything,
Okay.
and they make some rules that disallow the other party from doing anything important to
Okay.
stop them.
Okay.
Then eventually along the line the bigger party encompasses the littler party.
Okay, thank you.
Osman, how do you think that your system will kind of grow and become like a?
Well, I mean, there's a lot to do. I mean, there's a lot of institutional barriers that would prevent a third party or multiple parties from going. And, you know, of course, Congress and then the Senate. You know, things like the Electoral College. So there needs to be massive, widespread support for a reformation of the Electoral College, possibly including a percentage split of electoral votes instead of a winner-take-all votes or a complete abolishment of the Electoral Colleges. But there's a couple of ways to work towards a multi-party system, of course.
All right. So the question again was how does your party system work? Is that the question?
Yeah, we could do that one now. Yeah.
The party system the two-party system works by two parties sending up representatives, and they run for their how would I say this? Like their division? Like
They run for division works, yeah.
Yeah.
Like their section.
yeah, their section. So and so they keep fighting each other, which increases the amount, increases competition and makes them want to win more,
Yeah.
therefore putting more efficacy to trying to get more people to vote for them.
Right.
Alright, so my party system works how one party
Yeah.
re-elects people, and then the social contract, as we know from we exchange some of our liberties for order.
Yep.
So all the liberties are exchanged, or not all of the liberties are exchanged, but there is enough order that people don't have to worry about who is going to lead the worry too much about what differences the parties are gonna have.
Yeah.
Parties.
I have a question.
Yes.
So for both of you guys, mine says in the Constitution, how long are your guys' term limits?
And I think there's no problem with the term limits we have now. Of course, for the president, we'd have.
But since for you have you need to try and represent a bunch of different people. So how would those term limits reflect upon how many groups you have in the government?
I mean, we keep the same amount of. The only thing that we're arguing for is, more representation of political parties.
Okay.
So, of course, if a political party is doing well, that would reflect in how many people are voting them in. So, for Congress, I mean, it wouldn't. You could introduce term limits, but it could also with no term limits. It could reflect how well they have support with people.
All right, and then for you, how would yours work? So would yours work does one person get 10 years and then the next person gets it, or is it every 5 years it circulates to someone else in that same party?
Or would you do every year?
So honestly, I don't think it matters how many years a president can have or a leader can have.
Yeah.
All that needs to happen is that they can rule.
Yeah.
And then they can be if there's maybe a 10-year term limit, that would work because then another person with different ideas from that same party, the one-party system, would introduce those bigger ideas, trying to change the government for the better.
Yeah.
But what happens if someone in that next term limit does not follow what the standards are, and they start revolting? What would happen? How would you take that into account?
So there are some problems with that. Some of these have some of these dictatorships or one-party systems have no term limits.
Mm-hmm.
So the problem is with the no term limits is that it's hard to put the government accountable.
Yeah.
So it's a little complicated.
Okay.
So I want to stop you right there. You just mentioned dictatorship. I mean, I personally, I don't know. I mean.
Ooh, yeah, he's going for multiple parties, and you're the opposite of the spectrum.
One party could just mean
However,
one big party, though.
Wouldn't your multi-party system promote a ton of gridlock?
Of course it wouldn't. You know, the reason we see gridlock right now in the two-party system is because it is split up 50-50 every couple of years. You know, one side dominates and then the other side, and then there comes a point in time in which both sides are equally and where they can stop each other, where they cannot stop each other. We see this in the Senate, of course, when it comes to filibustering. You know, although it requires 60 people, and so you would need other people from the opposite party. But with a multi-party system, that would be, you know, a challenge that would not have to be overcome. You wouldn't have to go to another side, if that makes sense.
Yes.
You would,
Yeah.
of course, you would have broad support from all parties, from, you know, of course, from
However,
the left to the right, from the center, of course.
but all these different parties have different ideas and different views on how the government should work. So
Of
wouldn't
course, yeah.
wouldn't there be too much of hold on, I'm trying to phrase this.
I'm saying you mean there's too much necessity for their own gain that
Yes.
compromise wouldn't be. Well, I mean, of course, we could see that in our two-party system, but with a multi-party system, a party won't have absolute domination, of course. They would have to go over with parties similarly aligned or with other parties that are on the opposite side of the political spectrum. That way, they could pass laws that are more favorable in the long term instead of going rapidly. Of course, we see this point talked about in Federalist 10, where, you know, it's argued that we need a wash down of representatives, so then we don't have a tyranny of just one party, of course. And this could serve as a check on each party, on Congress, on Congress, of course.
I did not see that. Thank you.
Also, I'd want to mention in Federalist 70, the main topic, of course, is the presidency. But a couple passages, Hamilton argues that Congress should be slow. Congress should take its time to come up with laws. With a multi-party system, it will prolong the time in so which we can make laws, of course, in which it doesn't favor just one party or another. What I'm saying is compromise will be needed to pass laws, and of course.
However, what happens if something's very urgent and it's within the powers of Congress, not the president's power, and the Congress split up between all these many parties, can't agree on how the bill or whatever is set in motion?
Well, I
Wouldn't
mean-
that give too much gridlock and not enough cooperation?
Well, I mean, of course, this happens already with our two-party system. With a multi-party system, again, like I said, it will require that every single party member works together, or else they could risk their next term with voters if they do not adhere to what voters say. If something is urgent, it's likely that, you know, the popular base of America will say, okay, you know, we need something done, and we need something done quickly. Of course, they'd be arguing for their members to just vote for something that could be beneficial to work for a compromise. These parties would have to go and listen to the party, to their electorates, of course.
Would that be promoting a direct democracy?
Yes, it would.
Okay.
And that would be aligning with our, you know, of course, in the entire meaning of the House of Representatives. We have it so we can have a closer connection to the people, of course.
Bars were spoken during there.
Yeah.
Bars worth throwing. All right.
Yeah.
The next question. Let's keep going.
All right. Let's see. How would interest groups receive your party system?
How interesting. Oh, okay. I'll go first because I have been stuck in the corner not talking. So intergroups would receive. There's both sides to that argument. Interest groups would love it because they need parties to advocate for them, so they need to donate money, and so how would receive party systems. Okay, they would receive it as. I'm blanking. Sorry.
Okay.
They would. Interest groups would like it because they're they're spending money, but they're trying to get their cause known, and so
Yeah.
people could start like saying, oh, like yes, we need that topic to be talked about, and some of them would say, oh god, I want interest groups. I would say that the majority of, at the end of the day, most interest groups would like it because
Yeah.
they are speaking out for their change or they're donating to advocate for their cause.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sorry about the stutter.
Right. I believe that interest groups would like my party system because there's only one party to lobby for, which means
Yeah.
less money for that, less money to spend on that party, because they don't have to split their money between multiple parties.
Now, wouldn't multiple interest groups be competing to lobby you though, or your party system?
Yeah, because there's only one party.
There's
Yeah.
only one
Yeah.
party.
Which
Would
is
this not cause
So would
then,
that-
like a break off from standards of the party?
And would this cause like more corruption because they're gonna be keep
Yeah.
competing with the price. They're gonna keep
Yeah.
putting
Yeah.
more money than the other, more competition.
Yeah.
That has been a problem, yes, but there's also corruption in every other system of government. Like, yours has tons of corruption between giving money to like different people. Well, in every system
That
of
is true,
government-
but it's for a cause. It's for those interest groups to spread awareness because I feel like those issues aren't being brought up as much as they should be. So those interest groups needed to take charge in that. So they need a ground to speak upon. So that's why they donate to the government because they're inside. They know how to make bill. They can speak out on bills. They could sign like amendments and stuff.
Yeah.
So they can. So being able to get access to those legislatures like the Senate and the House is really important for those interest groups.
Yeah, well, the way the one-party system works is that if something is important or something gives more money,
Yeah.
it will adopt that issue, which more money means more less or taxes on the people.
Yes.
But
And
how do we know this money's going directly to our causes, to our people? You know?
well, that is true, but there should be safeguards and watchdogs in a place where they can watch over all the
So
Congress.
about you, the watchdogs are in your government. Is free speech going to be allowed? Because if it's not, then there's going to be no such thing as watchdogs. Because then those reporters won't be able to speak out against it, and then everyone has to go with the flow. Like you can't speak out against it.
I have a question. Is there
Yes.
full free speech in your government?
I believe there is free speech because there's a bunch of different platforms for different parties to speak on, and all of them have different
But is
views.
it truly free speech if they had to conform to two parties, one or the other?
I still believe that is free speech because they're getting their point out. They're still getting their beliefs out there.
However, in Schenck versus U.S.,
Mhm.
The Supreme Court ruled that in clear and present danger, free speech can be limited.
Yes.
So that is not completely free speech.
Well, I will say to your point, it doesn't truly relate to our topic of the party systems, regardless. But to fair credit, I will say your party system does not allow for another party to emerge, such as the Green Party or the Libertarian
Yes,
Party.
true. Because
No, we see
those bigger parties, they adapt what the little parties want. They adapt what they want.
do they truly though? We see right now that
Most
I
of the
mean we
time
see
they
it
do.
in 2000 Bush v. Gore
Yes.
that a bunch of votes in Florida went to the Green Party that possibly could have taken away from the Democratic Party. This does prove that the Green Party does not feel heard by its most similar party. Again, so that would limit free speech and broader support. With
I
a multi-party
guess the-
system,
The,
it would allow for better
the Democrats just
representation.
didn't pull in enough people. I guess they could have advocated more and try and get more people. But I guess in that time, they just didn't execute it as well as they should have. And therefore, they paid the price.
So, Osmar, how would we move towards your system?
How could we move towards our system?
Yeah, because you said like it hasn't all these other parties have kind of been suppressed. So how would we kind of make it so that they'd all be balanced?
I mean, how I said before, there's, of course, institutional barriers are the biggest problem to third parties right now. We see of course, just how the electoral system works. States give their all their votes to just the person who wins by plurality, although they might not have been the majority, or just whoever wins for the most. If states would move to a place where they can split up their votes based on percentages, this could possibly promote smaller parties. And like I said before, an abolishment of the electoral college could also work. But these are two options that can be taken to either abolishment or just to keep it, if we want to keep it, of course.
All right.
I think we can agree that all three parties have problems
Yep.
with their government.
Yeah.
With interest
I
rates,
mean,
right?
there is no perfect government.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes, there.
With
If all men,
interest
if all men were angels, then we wouldn't need government.
Exactly.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we can stop.
Thank you for listening.
Yeah.
Thank you for tuning in.
Yep.
We'll see you on the next episode where we'll be
Airing
discussing.
in 2038.
Ooh. Gotta keep that
Mark it on your
deadline.
calendar.
Mark it on your calendar. All
It's
right.
gonna be somewhere in that date, okay?
Somewhere in it.
Somewhere in that date.
Okay. All right.
See ya.
Have fun.
Yeah.
Study.